Attack on Titan is a difficult story to talk about. It's a war story from start to finish, but while it starts as a war between men and monsters, it slowly shifts to a war between people, and finally, a war between monsters. Amidst a sea of stories repeating the same ideas, all too scared to take a strong thematic stance, Attack on Titan stands tall with its original premise and bold statements about the world. As wonderful as this evolution is, however, it does create a small problem. You see, I really like the first season. The Trost arc and the 57th Exterior Scouting Mission arc are two of my favourite sections of the show. Only the Return to Shiganshina arc stands above them for me. The observant among you may have noticed a theme with those arcs. They all heavily feature humans fighting titans, and in two cases involve expeditions beyond the walls. There's a very narrow part of the Clash of the Titans arc that also hits the same vibe, and as you might imagine, I love that bit too. The problem is that the show promises us one thing, and it gives us just enough of that thing to convince us it's really good, and then it decides to give us a whole bunch of everything else too. And all of that other stuff is also great, but it's not the thing I wanted. And being so original, there isn't anything else that can scratch that itch. To deal with that, I've ended up rewatching the first 3 seasons a bunch of times. And like any overly invested nerd, I would start imagining what I would do if I was in this world. Don't look at me like that. I know you've all done it with something at least once, and if for some reason you haven't, you're missing out. But I'm getting off track here. Back when I was first thinking about this, I had a dedicated role-playing group, and so I speculated about trying to run a game based on Attack on Titan and to see how my friends would handle it. The problem is that role-playing games like for everything to happen on nice, flat 2D planes. Maybe we have some elevation and occasionally things can fly, but that's as far as we want to stretch things. And this shit right here, yeah, that's way out. So for the longest time, it sat in my mind as an unsolvable problem. Eventually, I did work out a solution. Players have to land between each move, but let them do all the flying around between moves. By the time I'd come up with it, however, my group had fallen apart and my interests had shifted towards war games, and so I just sort of sat on the concept for a while with some crudely assembled notes and didn't think about it. That is, until the finale released and I was captured by the hype all over again. Now that the decade-long wait is over and we know how the story ends, I still drift back to those first seasons, when the story was simple, and the questions of what I would do were more strategic and less ethical. So, I sat down, dusted off what I'd written down before, gave it a little bit of touching up, named it Titans, and figured I'd dive right in. The game was originally meant for a campaign, but those systems aren't really finished. And that doesn't answer the pressing question of the day. What would I do in this world? And then, a better question, could I do better than the characters in the show? For a lot of characters, that's a really tall order. So I went ahead and set the bar nice and low. Could I do better than Kit Woerman at the Battle of Trost? Could I avoid losing all my men, running away like a coward, and then almost killing my only hope? Surely it can't be that hard, right? So I sat down and drafted up a map of Trost and a quick scenario. Getting a good map of Trost was hard. We get a few shots of it, but trying to recreate the city exactly as shown in them is tedious, difficult, and frankly mind-numbing. So I booted up the Attack on Titan game, hopped into a mission in Trost, and took a picture of that map. That map proved difficult to recreate as well, mostly due to my own incompetence at making things to scale, so we ended up with this map instead. With the map done, I did a bit of research into how many squads there should be. My first numbers said about 60. Further research almost doubled that number. If I went with an accurate number, playing out this scenario would take forever, so I cut it down to just 50 squads. This gives me 10 Vanguard squads, 5 Rearguard squads, 14 Trainee squads, and a Command squad. Each of these contains 6 soldiers. There's also 20 resupply squads, comprising of 2 soldiers each. A major plot point in the Battle of Trost is the necessity of keeping the soldiers supplied with gas and blades to keep fighting. This is a recurring theme throughout most of the story, and keeping your soldiers supplied was a major part of the rules I devised for Titans. While there are no explicit rules forcing supply squads to exclusively operate as such, nor does it prevent regular squads from contributing to resupply efforts. Small, dedicated resupply squads is the most efficient use of resources with the system as it currently stands. I opted to deploy the soldiers based around their deployment in the story. The vanguard squads are far forward, ready to engage the Titans. The rearguard squad is watching over the gate, while the trainee, command, and supply squads begin in the HQ, having just finished getting ready to deploy. On the first turn, 20 Titans begin inside the walls. Every subsequent turn, more Titans will enter through the gate. It starts out as 1d3 plus 1 Titan per turn, but every 3 turns an extra Titan will be added every turn. This is supposed to ensure that no matter how hard I try, I cannot kill all the Titans and will eventually be overrun. Finally, there's the little matter of Aaron. I made a macro to randomly determine which squad he's in and allow me to check if he's in any given squad. Given his propensity for trying to get himself killed, I've opted to make him the first casualty that his squad takes. If he dies, the Titan that killed him is killed and replaced with his Titan form, which will then go on to start killing surrounding Titans. Which I suppose is a good time to talk about how Titans work in this system. I was designing Titans to be a solo game first and foremost. While you can play with someone else, Titans have set behavioral patterns that they follow, and the second player's role is just to increase the challenge by making you unaware of which Titan will follow which behavior. Without another player, the game is only a little easier, as you know what to expect, but it is still entirely playable. Which is good, because this scenario is a big one, and I would not want to subject someone to it. I did start playing with a friend, and we got through the first 3 turns in about 4 hours before we paused for the night. There are meant to be at least 30 turns in this scenario. I figured if I wanted to actually see this game through to the end, I'd be better off playing solo, and if it goes well, I can grab my friend and keep going later. Now, with all of the explaining out of the way, let's jump in and see how the game went. Going in, I had a general strategy for this game of a defense-in-depth approach. There are some civilians near the front that have to be protected, but once they evacuate, my intention is to pull back the vanguard to extend the distance Titans have to move to reach my forces, and reduce the distance between me and the HQ from which my supplies will be arriving. In the first turn, I do exactly that. My vanguard forces spread out to form a wide perimeter, preventing Titans from getting through without being distracted by one of them, while keeping them all out of harm's way for now. Back in the HQ, the resupply squads load up, alongside the command squad, while the trainees head back inside to gather some additional supplies. Each turn sees 2 actions from each unit, so in my second action phase, I have some vanguard squads begin taunting. Taunting represents a group of people yelling, waving, and generally making themselves more visible to the Titans. It makes Titans treat them as being closer than they are for the purpose of behavior, and is a major part of any defensive strategy. This is one section of the rules that deviates from the source material, but I feel is a necessary change to add some more complexity to the game. The trainees, meanwhile, have fully restocked and grabbed extra supplies. These can be used to resupply another squad, but can also be used to resupply the same squad while out in the field. All of the supply squads have also obtained extra supplies, and now are making their way forward. How far a squad can move with their ODM is somewhat random. They can always move a minimum of 6 spaces, and then they roll some dice based on how good they are with the ODM. The better they are, the more dice they roll. For each 4 or higher that they roll, they move another 6 spaces forward. If a squad rolls poorly, it has the option to spend additional gas to turn failures into successes. This is exactly what the command squad does. As the most elite squad on the field right now, I need them on the front lines quickly. When they resupplied, I gave them additional supplies, which will allow them to restock their gas when they arrive before they join the fight. With all of my squads done for the turn, the Titans get to move. With the way my defensive line panned out, the flanks take a lot of the heat. The left side squads have a few Titans moving over towards them, while the squads on the right have a lot of Titans approaching them. This sends the civilians in the area fleeing, directly away to the sides of Trost, while the rest continue moving toward the gate. One civilian is allowed through the gate each turn, which creates a 30-turn minimum, as there are that many civilian tokens on the field. In the second turn, I continue my defensive plan with a little bit of necessary aggression. The first Vanguard squad attacks the Titan A in the center. When a squad attacks a Titan, they may reposition themselves anywhere within one base of that Titan. The Vanguard squad positions themselves so that they are far enough away from the other two Titans to safely fall back. The Vanguard squad also has to expend some of their blades to stay alive. Whenever a squad attacks a Titan, they need to roll a certain number of successes from a pool of dice based on their abilities. For each one rolled, however, they make a critical failure. Too many of these can endanger the soldiers. To save themselves, they must expend their blades to cut themselves or their friends free. A unit begins with 12 blades and must spend 1 to attack, as well as 1 to discount each critical failure. The same rule applies when Titans attack them. This means that squads can prove very resilient while they are well supplied, but quickly begin taking casualties if they run low on blades. Vanguard Squad 3 attacks the Titan in front of them. This is a particularly large and tough Titan, and they fail to kill it. Whenever a squad attacks a Titan but fails to kill it, it can attack back. The Titan attacks, and the squad has to spend 5 of their blades on this single failed attempt. Thankfully, not all the attacks go poorly. On the right side, Vanguard Squad 8 attacks and kills the small Titan that has climbed up to fight with them. This lets them springboard towards the next target, another small Titan nearby. The command squad arrives this turn too, spending another 2 of their 8 gas to do so. The rest of the Vanguard rearranges themselves and begin taunting again to keep things under control. At this point in time, my primary goal was keeping the situation from spiraling away from me, and letting Titans pick up on the civilians beyond. In my next round of actions, the soldiers on the left fall back a bit further, one of them taunting to protect the squad that failed its attack. If a squad attempts to move while within one base of a Titan, they have to make a check to avoid being attacked as they run away. With their reduced resources, I am too paranoid to let Squad 3 move from their position. In hindsight, this was probably overly conservative, especially as the resupply squads have begun arriving now. In later turns, I made much riskier moves without major consequences. The center, meanwhile, forms up around a large tower. This is going to be the backbone of the defense for a while to come. The structure of this building, having several towers on it, makes it advantageous to work around safely. I have one of the squads there taunt, and bring the command squad over to join them. At this point, the first wave of my resupply squads were arriving. This actually surprised me, as in the 3 turns my friend played, his resupply squads had only started arriving on the 3rd turn. Finally, Squad 8 makes another attack, and kills another small Titan, using it to springboard himself into a new position where he can avoid being attacked in the Titan's next turn. He'll just end up very, very surrounded, which, come the Titan's turn, is exactly what happens. The tower also begins to attract a lot of attention, and Squad 2 also comes under a little pressure, but nothing that can't be handled pretty easily. The soldiers on the tower lash out. Squad 6 kills a medium Titan, but Squads 5 and 9 both fail to kill the large Titans they attack. The command squad resupplies itself, while more resupply squads arrive. This enables the squads to be more aggressive, confident that the steady stream of supplies will keep them safe. The resupply effort in general is going well. A line of supply squads forms a short distance from the front line. With the fighting retreat plan, the front line will eventually reach them, and if they're needed sooner, they will be ready to jump forward and assist the squads that need them. On the left flank, that is exactly what I do. 2 resupply squads move over to Squads 1 and 3, while Squad 2 kills one of the medium Titans to break free from being surrounded. He's not the only one, as on the right, Squad 8 cuts through another Titan to get away from the bulk of the Titans. Free from the pack, the squad runs the risk of being attacked and uses their ODM to escape. They roll well enough to get away from the few Titans that can try and grab them. They make their way over to the bottom of the courtyard area they're in and meet up with a resupply squad that had arrived previously, ready to assist them after their daring escape. Back at the tower, squads 5 and 9 both kill a large Titan, while the command squad takes out the Titan labeled with an E. These are a special type of Titan, known as a glutton Titan. Glutton Titans are harder than normal Titans to control, as they will happily ignore nearby groups of soldiers to go after the largest group in their general area. Squad 2 attacks another Titan but fails to kill it. This sees them expending a lot of blades to avoid the counterattack and leaves them in a dangerously exposed position. Behind them, squads 1 and 3 resupply, getting themselves ready to assist next turn if need be. The Titans swoop in to attack squad 2, but they have some terrible luck on the dice, rolling as many critical failures as they do successes. Each critical failure on an attack like this negates a success, meaning they don't manage to eat anyone this turn. Most of the Titans around the center have been cleared out. One of them was a special type of Titan, known as a civilian hunter. These Titans will beeline for the rear of the map, ignoring any soldier they don't happen to enter into base contact with, and feasting on any civilians they find. It breaches the line, rapidly approaching the trainees in the rear. New Titans are starting to enter the fray as well. 2 of them are also civilian hunters, and they threaten to break through as well if not stopped. The Titans that were around Squad 8 split up a bit. Most of them continue swarming around the squad, while some head towards the middle. Without anyone taunting, the Titans' behavior is actually being determined by their distance to the soldiers and nothing else, making some behave seemingly erratically compared to previous turns. My 4th turn begins with a lot of logistics going on. Squads 6, 8, and 9 all get resupplied. The resupply squads that had already completed their mission begin making their way back towards the HQ to start their next run. Another moves up to meet Squad 2 after it attacks and kills the medium Titan beside it. A bit deeper into town, Squad 1 taunts to attract the Titans they had previously been threatened by, making sure both Squad 2 and their resupply squad stay safe while they resupply in the next action. The command squad kills one of the civilian hunter Titans, while Squad 5 taunts to ensure that they can move aggressively while remaining probably safe. The other civilian hunter is tasked to the trainee squads, and 4 of them move forward, running along the rooftops to get into a position where they can easily intercept and kill the Titan when it approaches. The command squad kills the other civilian hunter, and Squad 9 kills the nearby medium Titan. Once again, the central area has been cleared of Titans, but with the huge swarm on the right flank, that will soon change. The soldiers who had been occupying that space fall back to a new defensive line. The only civilian on that side is almost completely clear of danger, making this area unimportant to hold. The 4th Titan turn mostly sees them congregating on my central position, but some continue down the right flank. This is ideal, as it makes picking them off individually much easier. This turn also heralds the first larger wave of Titans, and I roll high, seeing 5 new Titans arriving, including another civilian hunter. The only attack is against Squad 1, who is forced to spend some blades to survive. The civilian hunter also makes it much deeper into the line, and the necessity of the trainees attacking them now becomes apparent. With the civilian hunter bearing down on the center, several trainee squads move forward to intercept it. In its next turn, it will reach the civilians that are running away, and that is certain to end in disaster. Just in case the trainees fail, 2 of the rearguard squad are activated for the first time to move forward and prepare to engage in the next turn if needed. Near the front, things continue much the same. Vanguard Squad 1 kills the small Titan to escape the bigger one, and Vanguard Squad 2 taunts to cover their retreat. On the tower, Squads 5, 6, and 9 all engage with Titans. 6 and 9 successfully kill theirs, but Squad 5 is not so fortunate. The command squad meanwhile leaps into action, killing both a small and a medium titan. They have to use up all of their remaining blades to do this. One of the weaknesses of more veteran squads is they tend to be more resource intensive. With more dice being rolled, they're more likely to kill titans, however they're also more likely to roll critical failures that will consume precious blades to save them. This doesn't pose an issue this turn at least, as the resupply squad swoops in, ready to top them up in the coming turns. The fighting around the tower continues, with Squad 4 killing a medium titan, and Squad 5 continuing to fail to kill the large titan. They end up chewing through most of their blades, and Squad 6 is forced to taunt to cover for them. Deeper into Trust, the trainees engage the titan. I've moved several squads of them forward for this, so I have some backup options. This proves entirely unnecessary, as trainee Squad 8 attacks first and manages to kill the titan. With that titan dead, the problems are once again limited to the front of the formation. Squad 6 finds itself surrounded and assaulted by 2 titans, having to expend some of their blades to survive. Squad 8 meanwhile is once again surrounded by titans. Squad 2 is also threatened, but only by the lone titan that remains on this flank. They make a break for it in the next turn, failing to kill the titan, but moving away to relative safety. They're not the only ones, as Squad 8 and 6 do the same, killing their titans in the process. The command squad resupplies with the squad that moved forward, while Squads 1 and 5 fall back to be resupplied. It's this turn that I encountered the first hiccup with my resupply operations as well. One of the squads making their way back to the HQ rolls poorly, and they run out of gas on their way back. Several squads are in the vicinity, and I send one of them to go resupply the squad and get them back into the system quickly. While this isn't really a problem, it does highlight how easily things can start going wrong with the logistics in this game, and how difficult it can be to maintain them. Speaking of things going wrong, Squad 6 makes a break for it, and rolls terribly on their movement, leaving them stranded in the middle of the street. Squad 9 covers for them by killing the titan that would run into them immediately in the next turn, and the command squad taunts to try and cover their escape. Squad 8 also continues to break free by attacking and killing the nearby small titan. Squad 10 breaks from formation to come over and help, as they've expended a decent amount of their resources in this escape attempt. Squad 4 also receives some assistance after a failed attempt at killing one of the nearby titans, with Squad 3 moving over to stand near them. Finally, Squad 2 actually succeeds in its attempts at killing the titan it was dealing with, completely removing the titan presence from the flank. With the command squad taunting, most of the titans move over towards it, and yet again the towers are surrounded by titans. Squads 4 and 10 come under attack from the titans near them, and both are forced to expend their precious blades to avoid losing any soldiers. To break from the story here for a moment, thus far nothing has really gone wrong. No one has died, and the whole situation seems to be under control. Despite that, I am absolutely feeling the pressure at this point in the game. Having made this game, and having done a little testing on it already, I have a pretty good grasp of what's needed to succeed. Without that, I am pretty sure I'd have already messed up, and even now I'm feeling very close to having something go horribly wrong. On the flip side, if things don't go horribly wrong, I also think I'm pretty close to stabilizing the situation and trivializing the rest of the scenario, which isn't great. An extended period of not making mistakes shouldn't be enough to win a scenario that's meant to be difficult. So if that is the case, I think I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board with this one and come up with something more challenging for the future. The 7th turn starts with the command squad killing an oncoming titan. This frees space for Squad 6 to escape back onto the nearby building alongside their resupply squad. Squads 9 and 10 both engage and horribly fail to kill the titan near them. This expends all of Squad 9's blades, as well as all but 2 of Squad 10's blades. Resupply squads immediately sweep in to assist them, as do Squads 7 and 8 to try and help Squad 10. Squads 3 and 4 fall back from the titans, with Squad 6 moving to receive resupply, while Squad 3 takes a position on the tower. There, they taunt to protect the squads in the surrounding area, and the command squad kills another large Titan. Squad 8 kills the Titan staring at Squad 10, and Squads 4, 6, 9, and 10 are all fully resupplied. Squad 3 has landed in a perfectly awkward position to make it very difficult for the Titans to reach them, despite being so close. Many of them scramble up onto the tower to try and reach the soldiers, but only one of them can actually get close enough in time to attack them, and he rolls poorly enough that he doesn't pose a threat. At this point, the tower is well and truly overrun, and it's not worth trying to keep it. Squad 3 kills a medium Titan to escape, while the command squad tries to kill a large Titan. They roll very poorly, with 9 critical failures. This consumes most of their blades to avoid losing any soldiers, and when the Titan counterattacks, they don't have enough left to stave him off. A member of the command squad is eaten, marking the first casualty of the battle. With the command squad now trapped on the ground, Squad 9 attacks and kills one of the 2 Titans threatening them. Despite this disaster, resupply efforts continue as normal. Some squads are repositioned or start taunting, hoping to protect the command squad long enough to be resupplied. The command squad makes a break for it, and while they do get attacked, the Titan doesn't roll well enough to threaten any of them this turn. They reach a nearby building where a resupply squad is waiting for them. Squads 3 and 9 also pull back, and the second retreat is almost complete. In their next turn, the Titans continue to swarm around the taunting squad, and one of the biggest dangers in the system comes up. Titans are an imposing physical threat, but they are also a terrifying foe to face, and this is represented by the fear. Anytime a squad loses any soldiers, they have to make a courage check to avoid panicking. This potential panic spreads to any squad within 6 spaces of them at the end of the Titan turn. Having lost a soldier, the command squad, and all squads around them have to test for the fear. This could be that horrible disaster I was worried about if the command squad fails, and my biggest asset is out of commission for a while. They pass the test, and so does almost every other squad nearby, except for the resupply squad beside them. At this point, I've more or less made the decision not to play on for much longer. The scenario simply doesn't pose enough of a threat to accurately recreate the feeling of the Battle of Trust, and I think the system might need a little retooling to be slightly more lethal. I played out one extra turn, in which Squads 4 and 5 escaped, and Squad 6 became the focus of the Titans again, but once more, they can very easily escape in much the same way as every other squad. With the supply lines shortening, and Titans now taking up to 3 turns to reach my defensive line, I just don't see how things could go wrong outside of disastrous dice rolls. So I'm going to take this one back to the drawing board and see what changes need to be made to get this game functioning a bit better and making it a lot more challenging. If you'd like to join me on that journey, I'm going to be starting a devlog sort of series for this game, where I'll play out a campaign and make adjustments to the rules as I go. If you'd like to watch my progress, and see the story that will inevitably unfold, as I cannot help but inject a narrative into these sorts of games, please do subscribe to the channel. It'll be the best way to find out how the game is growing, as well as find out when it releases, either as testing rules for you to try out, or the full game.